Many are upset over the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight, with some people claiming that it was rigged because many people bet a lot of money and they lost a lot of money. Allegedly, there's this script that got leaked showing how the fight was supposed to go down between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul.
Netflix has filed a lawsuit against Mike Tyson and Jake Paul over their much-hyped fight, which turned out to be more scripted drama than an actual boxing match. After 6 months of relentless promotion, fans were left disappointed by what felt more like a reality TV.
Tyson versus Jake Paul just got Netflix sued. People got big problems.
Finale than a genuine showdown. The anticipation was sky high, with millions eager to witness Tyson's legendary power and Paul potentially being knocked back into YouTube obscurity. Instead, they got a glitchy, over-the-top performance that barely resembled a fight.
Jake didn't deserve it, but he got there through business, and I get that. For people like me who value what boxing is supposed to be about, right? The reason I had a whinge about Tyson Fury not fighting the best that time.
Fight. Suspicion grew when key punches didn't land convincingly, leaving fans to wonder if Netflix underestimated their audience's intelligence. The damage extends beyond just Tyson and Paul's reputations. It's a blow to boxing itself.
It is two athletes getting a payday and nothing else. And from the highlights, using that word real loosey-goosey, that I watched of it, there wasn't even really much of a fight there.
Celebrated sport is now overshadowed by this debacle. Even if the duo issues an apology, it'll feel as scripted as the fight. Bravo, gentlemen! You've not only disappointed fans, but managed to drag an entire sport down with you.
It's just, from the very beginning, I said there would be no knockouts in this fight. I was very, very firm in that prediction. And there was no knockouts in this fight. Not only was there no knockouts, there was no anything worthwhile. As I said from the beginning, this is just a
Jake Paul pocketed a staggering $40 million from this so-called epic showdown, while Mike Tyson, a man who built his legacy with iron fists, walked away with a modest $20 million. It's as if Tyson traded his legendary status for a quick payday, tossing his reputation aside like an old sweater. A few half-hearted punches and a scripted performance later, they cashed in big, leaving fans questioning everything they thought they knew about sports, money, and dignity. And Netflix. They raked in the eyeballs, pay-per-view revenue, and viral buzz that screams, "Do we even care about real sports?" Forget The Witcher or Stranger Things. Their new block.
Is this fight real?
It's as real as all the money that's being bet. Yes, that's a qualified yes. There were certain differences from conventional fights or conventional male fights. There are 2-minute rounds.
Buster might as well be titled "How to Make Millions from Fake Fights 101." The whole fiasco felt like a bad reality show where everyone knows it's staged, but they keep watching anyway, hooked by the chaos. For Netflix, the formula works. Bait fans with the allure of authenticity, deliver a circus, and rake in the cash. Why bother with real sports when fake fights pull in views and dollars so effortlessly? Now, Netflix claims innocence, acting as though they had no idea.
Citing over 100,000 people complaining online, the lawsuit claimed that the boxing fans, along with go to my Instagram.
Dear Tyson and Paul might stage the whole thing. Really? You didn't suspect the punches might be as fake as the drama? If this was Let's Pretend the Fight edition, they played their parts perfectly, leaving fans, dignity, and the
people keep emailing me and asking me, what did I think about the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight? The reason I didn't want to talk about the fight and the reason I was so adamant that I wouldn't be talking about the fight while it was going on during stream is because it's just
sport of boxing in the dust. Fans knew something was off from the start. The glitches, the lackluster punches, and the strange energy in the air. It felt less like a fight and more like a badly written soap opera. But instead of tears, fans responded with outrage. After months of anticipation,
I do believe it was scripted. What? And I believe that Tyson was certainly held back. What? Look, I'm a fighter and I can see it.
Were served a poorly executed, possibly staged disaster that had viewers throwing popcorn at their screens in frustration. Now Netflix is trying to dodge responsibility, pointing fingers at Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. But fans aren't buying it. The backlash has turned into a full-blown lawsuit as Netflix scrambles to contain the fallout from what should have been a triumphant live event. Instead, it became a corporate disaster.
I'm glad to see that because if I hadn't saw that, I would be worried that this fight may not even...
If the script didn't play out exactly as planned, perhaps that was the point all along. A setup? Who could have guessed? With the lawsuit underway, the blame game has begun, and honestly, Netflix's move to sue Tyson and Paul seems well-deserved. Once feared in the ring, Tyson's legacy is now tangled in this fiasco, leaving
Catches him flush on the chin. Tyson's leg buckle and he drops to the canvas. Then he's out for the count, but Tyson, despite his warrior heart, cannot beat the 10 count. Winner Jake Paul by KO.
fans questioning everything. This whole fiasco with a YouTuber who thinks boxing is just throwing a few slow punches for cash is a disgrace. Mike Tyson, my guy, you were a legend. And what did you do?
Believe that he was making the money he says he's making. Showtime Boxing wouldn't have gone out of business, and Showtime would have made sure.
You tossed that legendary history aside like some old ratty sweater you couldn't even be bothered to donate. Then there's Jake Paul, a man who somehow convinced the world that getting punched for living is a legitimate career.
Somewhat rigged. Now, there's varying degrees of arguments. The first is that Tyson was required to complete 8 rounds for money. Some say that's how it was rigged. He's not going to go all out to shut down Jake Paul because he wants $20 million.
Path. If there were any justice, the two of you would be sued for ruining boxing. But let's be real, the true reason Mike Tyson and Jake Paul turned their fight into a Showtime circus was simple: money. Tyson, the man who once made millions terrifying his opponents, found himself back in the ring for one reason only: Netflix's fat paycheck. And Jake Paul, the guy who built
Mike Tyson fight.
Interesting.
Script. How so? What do you mean by
just
script?
Weird. It's just
like scripted in what way?
No, I don't know.
a career out of being a YouTube villain and decided to cash in on punching people in the face. Really, Jake, what even is this? You're out here making millions, pretending to be a boxer, turning a sport rich.
Well, X has spoken. The fight was scripted. Everyone is talking about this on X, and the script was actually leaked on X
in history into a parody of itself. This wasn't a fight, it was a cash grab disguised as entertainment. Here's the problem. In their quest for a quick payday, Mike Tyson and Jake Paul turned boxing into a joke. This wasn't about putting on a show. It was about doing the absolute bare minimum and getting away with it. Sure, maybe Netflix said, just pretend it's a fight, nobody will care. But guess what? We care.
Mike Tyson tweeted that he almost died over the summer. He said, he had a bunch of blood transfusions, just had to fight to get healthy. And then his performance yesterday against Jake Paul, just your thoughts on what we saw.
Mike Tyson was right, and I was wrong.
We watched Tyson, whose most viral moments now involve anything but boxing, and Jake, the guy who can't seem to function without a script. And look where that got us. Leaked scripts, conspiracy theories, and a sport's integrity in question. Was this even a real fight? Or is Netflix just in the business of faking everything now? Tyson and Paul certainly didn't help. They opened that can of worms, all for a paycheck, and turned boxing into a circus act. Now they're facing a $50 million lawsuit, and honestly, they've earned every bit of it. Bravo, guys, you cashed in, made a mockery of the sport, and left fans questioning everything. Well done. The fight failed miserably.
People keep emailing me and asking me, what did I think about the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight? The reason I didn't want to talk about the fight and the reason I was so adamant that I wouldn't be talking about the fight while it was going on during stream is because it's just...
And now Tyson and Paul are facing a lawsuit that's got everyone watching. The lesson here: don't promise a fight and deliver a nightmare. When people pay for an event, they kind of expect to see one. The public reaction?
Is currently being sued over their Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight. And it's not because people think the fight was rigged, though I have questions, and that's what we'll get into. It's because it didn't work, and a lot of people were
ugly. If Netflix thought they could sweep this under the rug, they were in for a rude awakening. Fans didn't just voice their anger, they unleashed a social media firestorm. Tweets poured in, memes exploded, and the outrage spread faster than Netflix's buffering icon. The fight was a disaster. The glitches were laughable, and the entire event felt more like a poorly scripted Netflix original than a boxing match. Fans were left wondering, was this real or...
Everything. But my kids, to my children, I'm nobody. But that night they're going to find out their father's very special.
Did Netflix just make another disaster movie? Spoiler alert, it wasn't even good enough to be that. Social media lit up with reactions calling the fight a joke and one of the worst events ever. In the end, people couldn't help but ask, were we watching a boxing match or just pawns in Netflix's latest reality show? Influencers were already figuring out how to monetize the disaster because, hey, at least someone was cashing in on this mess. But if this is the future of boxing, where every fight feels like a scripted spectacle, fans might start punching their own TVs in frustration. This lawsuit could be a game changer for Netflix and every other streaming platform. If it sticks, it might open the floodgates for more lawsuits every time a live event goes wrong. Imagine millions of fans, popcorn in hand, ready to watch the next big thing, only for the stream to freeze mid-punch. Think people will just shrug it off? Yeah, right. Netflix could be facing a lot more legal headaches down the road. And what about boxing? Will fans even care about the difference between real fights and this kind of spectacle anymore? Or will they just tune in for the next train wreck, knowing it's all about entertainment, not sport? The implications for celebrity boxing and pay-per-view events are massive. If this is the new trend, buckle up. Because we're about to witness an industry redefining itself for better or worse. We're raising an entire generation of athletes who are more famous for being famous than for actually knowing how to throw a punch. Expect more big-name celebrities cashing in on these glorified slap fights, where real competition takes a back seat to the best script, the juiciest drama, and the flashiest pay-per-view numbers. Real athletes, they're being pushed aside, replaced by YouTube stars who can barely remember their own punchlines, let alone how to box. At what point do audiences wake up and realize they're just watching actors in gloves? When the real talent gets drowned out by staged nonsense, will anyone still care about the authenticity of sports? Are we headed for a world where fans need to Google, "Is this fight real?" before every match? If Netflix doesn't clean up its act, this could be the beginning of a much larger mess. As for boxing, who knows? The next real fight might be as scripted as this one. We could be looking at a future where the only genuine thing in the ring is the sweat on the fighter's brows, and even that might be CGI. Boxing deserves better, but does the audience even want it anymore?